Hi, everybody. This is Angel Arts yet again, and I am here with another candidate for the Dragon Age Season 2 campaign. This is Evan.
Hello.
And we're gonna spend some time to get to know Evan, pick his brain a little bit, try to get a feel for who he is and what kind of player he might end up being if he ends up getting selected. So, Evan, my first question for you is what is it about the Dragon Age universe that interests you?
So I would say that it's a matter of how rich the universe is and how well developed it is. So there's a lot of deep lore. It's not just like they put something together for the time period that the games happen in. It's developed over centuries prior. And so you wind up with interesting things. So you don't just have sort of world ending problems like blights or the breach, but you also have sort of more mundane everyday problems like national rivalries or the Mage Templar conflict.
Okay, all right. Question number two. What is it about tabletop gaming or role playing that interests you?
So, like I said in my earlier video, something that would be new to me, and so I'm coming to it from the perspective of someone who has done and played a number of computer RPGs, and so. In addition to some of this like story aspects and stuff that you get with computer RPGs, there's still those times when it's like the dialogue wheel pops up or whatever, and you look at the choices and you're like, none of these are really what I want to do. Um, and so it would be interesting to sort of see the more freeform thing that you could get with a tabletop game, and then also the interactions with other players.
Awesome, awesome. Number three, why do you believe that you would be a good person for others to play with?
Um, I would say that I'm pretty easygoing. Hopefully, I'm a friendly guy, and will do my best to get across the character of Gerard and make him an interesting companion.
Okay. Then, in that case, I'll change the question around and say, what is your biggest weakness as a player, and how do you plan on overcoming slash improving that weakness?
So this is kind of a hypothetical for me, but my guess is that it will wind up that I'll be on the more passive side of things. And so to try and address that, I'll just sort of attempt to be more assertive and bring character of Gerard through more.
I would think that as a businessman, you probably should have some people skills, unless you're
Yes.
Donald Trump. So, did I just say that? but yeah. So I think that definitely is a very good challenge for you, considering your character theme.
Yep.
Then my next question is pick any event or situation that took place in the Dragon Age Season 1, and how would your character have handled that situation differently or similarly?
So the situation that came to my mind, and I went back and watched it, was when everyone discovered that the source of the pox was Delwyn's blood magic and the interaction they had with Delwyn. And Gerard's father died of the pox. And so I was sort of trying to figure out how Gerard would react to this if he were to meet Delwyn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I went back and watched it, maybe I forgot this fact or mispicked something up, but I think Maximilian's parents may have
Yes.
died from, okay,
One of them.
also
One of
died
them.
from
Yes.
pox. Okay, so we were in sort of a similar situation, and what I was already thinking was that there would be kind of a similar reaction to what Maximilian had, where Gerard would not be happy about the situation, but at the same point, he would sort of see past it to the overall goal and also see how remorseful Delwyn was about what he had brought about and be able to move past it. So I think he would have reacted kind of similarly to what Maximilian did.
Okay. That is a very good, honest answer. All right. So those are all of the out of character questions. So now we're going to jump in and have some fun and do some role playing. So hypothetical situation, Evan said that he really wanted to interview with Plim, which is a very good choice. Plim is such a fun character. You probably have started, reestablishing trade with New Denerim, and I think that through you, Plim is trying to talk to you about having some sort of collaborative deal between Kirkwall and New Denerim, using you as sort of like the go-between, because Maximilian isn't a businessman. Heck, he's not even a leader type person. He didn't really want to be Viscount, but he trusts people smarter than him to be able to take care of these kind of things. Make sense?
Okay.
So, um, Plim has basically been tasked to interview you and just to get an assessment of you as a person, whether or not he can trust you, and whether or not he thinks that you would be a good fit as this go-between to provide aid between Kirkwall and Ferelden. So, you are going to enter into the Viscount's estate. You will be escorted by one of the guards to an office, probably near where Aveline's office is. She currently is residing as the captain of the guard. And there will be a gentleman, a very hairy gentleman, named Plim. I'll let you decide if you actually know of Plim's condition, so you can act and react accordingly. And he's in this desk. It's very messy, and there's like papers all over the place. And he's just kind of perusing through these papers as soon as you walk in.
So I walk in, and I imagine that I've been doing business in Kirkwall for a while, so I am at least aware of Plim, and so I'm not going to react too surprisedly.
Okay.
Mr. Plim, you wanted to see me.
He looks up at you and says, "Mr. Plim, haha, I don't think I've been heard Mr. anything for quite a long time."
Well, it seemed a good title to use.
I I like it. Although if you want to call me Mr. Cornstead, that's what I used to be called back in the day.
All right, Mr. Cornstead, what would you like to discuss?
Well, he says, "Have a seat." And then he'll sort of motion towards the chair in front of him. And he says, "My lord, Viscount Sunworth, he wanted to talk to you because he heard that you are a very successful businessman. And as intelligent as I can be, I'm afraid I don't really can dabble too much on that kind of stuff. It's tough for the image, you know. But well, we need someone to coordinate between Kirkwall and Ferelden to help with the reconstruction efforts, and we were hoping that you might be able to fit the bill, so to speak."
I'd certainly be interested in knowing what you have to offer. I think that I can certainly help out. I've already got trade routes running along the Waking Sea, and have thought about moving into Ferelden.
Really?
We used to trade with Ferelden before the Blight.
You're one of the very few people that I've heard have been interested in going back to Ferelden. I mean, I suppose the real estate there has become extremely cheap by now, but why do you want to go to Ferelden so badly?
Well, I realize that it's not exactly in the shape that it used to be, but I mean, that's where my family's originally from. I'd like to get back home.
"I see," he says. And suddenly Plim gets a little bit more serious, and he says, "So, if you don't mind me asking, how is your family, considering, they lived in Ferelden?"
Well, unfortunately, both my parents are not with us. My mom died during the Blight, but my dad died before it. But I have a sister, an older sister, and she's over in Orlais, and doing quite well.
Sister in Orlais. I have a very good friend from Orlais.
Oh, really?
They're they're an interesting bunch. Interesting bunch. No offense to your sister, I'm sure she's a lovely woman. Just they their priorities are a little different from well, from mine. Let me just say that.
I understand where you're coming from.
Plim then asks, "So, what got you into becoming a businessman? I'm just curious."
Well, it wasn't exactly something that I outright chose. The trading network that I have was originally run by my parents and their parents before them. And it just kind of got passed down through the generations, and here I am.
Where exactly does your trade routes? I don't know what the terminology is. How far do they span? What are some of the cities that you coordinate with?
Well, we hit Kirkwall, obviously, over to Ostwick. Um, I'm not sure, something else on the southern border of the Waking, or I guess northern border of the sea. And then we used to extend down to Amaranthine in the old location of Denerim before the Blight.
Since you do a lot of traveling, just out of curiosity, um, what is your combat experience? Especially down in Ferelden, it's not necessarily a particularly safe place, and I
Yeah,
would even
so
think when you visit Orlais, there's assassins all over the place and bards, and they play this game that I don't understand at all. But
So I try as best as I can to avoid combat, try and figure out where the enemies are, and then be somewhere else. But obviously, I do have run into some problems back when the blight wasn't as bad as it turned out to be, and we were still running into Ferelden. I would follow alongside, and usually I would stick to the back ranks and try and hit the darkspawn with arrows. Um, so I have some. I'm not exactly a frontline fighter or anything like that.
well, he says we do need people like you. Absolutely. Don't worry, you can leave it to the likes of us to keep you at bay while you guys do, all of the other important stuff that helps people get fed, because that's, of course, very important. We all have to do our
Believe,
part.
believe me, I appreciate it.
I like you, sir. I like you. All right, let me ask you a different question then. Explain to me, and be gentle. Try to use very simple layman's terms words, if that's the right word. You know, I can be very slow with these kind of things. They can go over my head a little bit easily. Explain to me the most challenging deal that you had to make with someone. What was the most challenging deal?
I would say it is trying to deal with uh, some of the guild and coterie type organizations that sort of try and shake you down and get protection money. And for a while, well, to be honest, we're still paying some of them, but uh, I was able to negotiate some of that down. Basically, said, hey, look, I can get you a better deal if I have more goods moving through, and the lower prices I can offer, the more goods come through. Um, and so sort of make up a lower protection fee through volume or something like that. And they kind of went for it, I guess. Not exactly happy about the whole situation, but there's only so much you can do against people that are that well armed and organized.
Plymouth, while you're telling him the story, he's sitting back a little bit and he's rubbing his furry chin and he says, "Man, you are full of surprises. You deal with the coterie too?"
Not by choice. Uh, they don't really leave me an option.
Even so, and the fact that you're still standing here, no offense, no offense, but those people, they can get pretty they can get under your skin in more ways than one, let me tell you.
And I try and avoid that, but at the same time, if they start killing off everyone, they won't have that income stream anymore. So I guess we're still useful to them.
Yes, well, money these days is still very important, especially when you've got a lot of buildings to put up and people to feed and all that good stuff. Oh,
Absolutely.
all right. Let me ask you one more question, he says. Of all of the things that's been going on, especially with the Blight in Ferelden, what is, if you could fix one thing, one specific thing, what would you try to fix and why?
Uh, I guess I would try to get people to come back home. There's still plenty of land, and I realize it's will be tough, but I think that if everyone puts their minds to it, they can really get to work and rebuild Ferelden to something that rivals what it used to be. Get people home.
I like that answer. I like that answer. You know, I used to my hometown was also Ferelden too. I used to actually be a guard in Denerim, believe it or not. The Viscount too, actually.
Well, I guess you've done well for yourself, but I'm sorry what happened to Denerim. I mean, we all lost something.
Yeah, well, them's the breaks. We all lost something. I lost, well, a lot more. But I gained a lot, he says as he sort of flexes a little bit. But I like you. I like you, Mr. Payne. Wow, I like that name too. Mr. Payne. Oh,
Well, thanks. Plim's a pretty good name too.
I don't know. Plim Payne rings a lot better than Plim Cornstead, don't you think?
I do like the alliteration there.
Plim Payne. We'll talk on that. We'll talk on that.
I'm Gerard. I've got connections around some big cities, important cities, helping to rebuild Denerim, trying to make more connections there. But at the same time, I'm still pretty skilled with the bow and also skilled at trying to figure out where people are, avoid them, come up with the best routes through dangerous locations, and avoid combat when possible.